Hey guys, welcome to Pet Rambles. I'm Pet and today I'm going to ramble about The Gates of Feral Gods, also known as Dungeon Crawler Car book number 4. Yes, it's book number 4 and I have here the first book. I haven't bought 2, 3, 4 and so on. I only have the first book on hardcover and I started to get it on hardcover because I think it's looking fantastic. I absolutely love the series and I want to support the author and whatnot. So I started to collect hardcovers of this edition. But yeah, this is only the first one. This is how it looks. Yeah, this will be a bit of a spoiler video. I also don't know how long it's going to be because I have a couple of bullet points that I want to tackle. A bit of a ramble, a bit of improvised. Again, it's the book number 4. So if you are here and you don't know anything about it, it's I have a video. My first review, my first opinion about books. It's a video spoiler free on my YouTube channel. I will link it in the description where I talked. I made that video after reading the first 3 books, so I'm pretty happy about how that thing turned out. But if you are a person that read the first 3 books and he's not sure, or you're not sure if you want to read the 4th one, I enjoyed the 4th one the most so far. I've enjoyed the first 2. The 3rd one was a little bit maybe confusing because of the, let's say, the tunnels, the metro stations and so on. But this one, it's better. It's also, I'm a little bit more intrigued right now because of all the things that happen. So if you are curious if you should read this one, definitely yes. So I think I will just start with the spoiler parts. Let's go like that. You've been warned and so on, whatnot. This is the type of video that you are watching after you yourself read the book, just so you can see another opinion or something like that. I like to do that because what I read, I don't have friends who read kind of like the same things that, at least not at the same time, at the same things that I've read, and I kind of feel that I need to exchange some opinions. So I watch what other people have said sometimes. But yeah, anyway, I wrote here that the world was less confusing than book number 3. I was a little bit confused by the bubbles and whatnot, but I'm not blaming this on the book. I'm blaming this mostly on myself. Sometimes it's a bit hard to concentrate and whatnot, but it was a bit less confusing. But I enjoy how the world was built. And it's also kind of like, you know, when that voice starts at the beginning, that kind of like a lot of people survived, and because of that, we are going to create bubbles, a lot of bubbles, and we are going to randomize the people inside the bubbles. And each of the bubble is going to be split between air, water, and whatnot. That's where the confusing part was for me. I didn't care at some point, you know, like in the book number 3 with everything, with the station numbers and so on, it felt that I need to keep track of things to enjoy it. Here, not so much, mostly because, yeah, bubbles and things happened. But the action was pretty engaging because they had fights in the air, they had fights underwater, they had fights under castle, sand dunes and whatnot. So it was enjoyable from that point of view. Then another thing that I think I mentioned in the video, in the first video, that I kind of enjoy this AI personality, which is kind of like a character, and I think the AI is kind of shining a little bit more here because the AI is kind of like losing its mind, and from what they've been talking in the book is that he's losing his mind sooner than expected. So there were a couple of really funny things with the AI and how the AI is kind of like not in love of Carl, kind of like maybe in love, I don't know, something like that. There is an interaction between the AI and Carl, and how the AI wants Carl to do some things and Carl doesn't want to. It's also like how somehow the AI is reading things in this weird voice, like aroused, like the AI is aroused. I also, the way I've read this book was while listening to the audiobook and reading at the same time, which I kind of enjoyed doing. I think I forgot his name, unfortunately. The narration has been done flawlessly yet again. There are a lot of characters in this book, and he manages, I believe it's the same guy, right? He's changing his voices because he's doing such a good job changing the voices that you are maybe thinking it's multiple people. Maybe? I don't know. But yeah, AI, it's fun. Then, Chris. We are getting this character about, this character Chris, which I know that he was in the past books, but again, I've read those in January. I kind of forgot some things about Chris and about characters. I generally I remember things from years ago that happened, but I don't remember sometimes details in books, especially when you take breaks and so on. And you know, I do enjoy. One thing that I'm doing right now is that every after I finish a book, I'm taking notes, my personal notes, just so I have them there, and later in the year or whatever, if I want to see what was my opinion about that book, I can read my notes. But yeah, Chris, the thing that I want to point out here, again, I forgot about it, kind of. I know that it was a character, right? He appears here and there, that he changed his personality after he picked a class or a race or something like that, right? And he has been warned that he's not himself, but I kind of forgot, like, what was his spiel? Like, why was this character important? I think the author, Matt, is doing like a fantastic job kind of reminding us without reminding us, if it makes sense. Like, he's naturally telling us through dialogue or through some description who is this character, Chris character. So you kind of get reminded that, hey, this Chris character has a family, he has a brother is dead, and so on. And he's doing it flawlessly through dialogue and through conversations. You don't feel that, hey, this is the author reminding us what happened in the past books. I just wanted to mention this. Then one thing that I liked, Princess Donut character is also evolving. Maybe not that much this episode, but there was one thing that I liked where Carl has to kill Chris. Chris is fine with it, and so on and so on. But then Donut intervenes and she says to Carl, "Don't hate me." And then she's doing her spell, and then Chris disappears. And then Princess Donut was like, "Carl, you're not a killer." And she was kind of protecting Carl of not committing murder, kind of, even that Chris said that he's fine with it. So that was an interesting point. It's also, you know, interesting that this Chris character, which got a bit more evolved in this book, is going to continue with them, I guess. I don't know, haven't read the 5th book yet. But yeah, his story is continuing somehow. And that whole thing was also interesting with the parasite and how Chris was being controlled and whatnot. And now that fight on how Carl is being able to kill the parasite and now Chris is Chris again. That was interesting. I remember reading this part about Chris. I was listening and reading while I was on plane. We were supposed to land on Heathrow, and we spent like 1.5 hours on air doing rounds because they couldn't land. I was like looking at the clouds outside. I was like listening about Chris. I was like, Chris, that and that. Anyway, fun facts. Irrelevant facts, but yeah. Another bullet point that I wrote here is that Carl turns into more action. What do I want to say about this? Like, in the first 3 books, he was more like, you will not break me. But right now, he's more like, I'm going to break you. So he's starting to go more on the offensive. And one of the most interesting parts in this book, and I think in all the books, and which is why I'm saying that this was my favorite book so far, was him killing Loita, the admin, on how he planned the whole thing with the Princess Donut toy, and how he tinkered with it, that whole thing, and how he was planning things, and now he's getting there, invited into shooting the commercials, they were bad commercials. They like Zev, I like Zev, which is better than Loita. She was being more of an annoying admin, and so on and so on. Like Matt, the author, was able to create this hate towards this character. And everything was so nicely planned and so nicely executed on how that admin person died with the explosion and so on. And then what was interesting on how everything stopped, and then Oren, I believe that's how I wrote the character here, interrogates Carl to see what exactly was its plan. And it was, and the quote is, it was quite simply one of the most brilliant assassinations I have ever seen a crawler execute, and I applaud you for it. Because it seems that it's a thing on how crawlers kill or execute admins somehow, like they've tried. And I'm going to mention right now the Anarchist Cookbook, like such an interesting thing to get introduced. I think it was introduced in last book, in number 3, I think. It's such an interesting thing because it's allowing the author to kind of draw parallels, like between old runs. It's like tying up this current run with old runs, and it is being done through this book that only Carl knows about. And that's an interesting thing that I wrote down to mention. So yeah, that's interesting on how was it? I think it was like Oren, I believe, he asked Carl, like, how many executions do you think there have been to admins? And generally there have been like 3 or 4, but this run there have been like 15. So everything in combination with the AI, this execution, like 15 executions so far of admins, you can see how, and then you also get this budget, and then how the corporations are not aligned with what's going on. You can feel how this run can derail. So again, this is why I feel that it's adding more intrigue in this book, in this series, and it's making me want to read more. Then characters, Katya. She wasn't that interesting last book. I mean, she was just introduced, to be fair, and she was like this shy person. She's not that shy anymore. It was interesting to see that. I'm a bit sad, but I'm also curious what's going to happen with her in the next book, especially since she said that she wants to go back. So basically the party right now, I believe it's Carl, Princess Donut, the new character, the head character, the doll head, which I also wrote to mention here, I believe, and then maybe Chris. That's kind of it, right? There were a couple of other characters which I felt that were interesting, but Katya was an interesting character, and again, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with her, because I don't think after building her so much in book 3, and especially in this book, right, she's less shy, she's more proactive, she's taking more ownership, and this is why she's feeling that she needs to go out on her own. And I believe this was also another thing that Carl was kind of like feeling, that maybe he's losing control a little bit. There was something at the end of the book which I forgot, but yeah, that's interesting. And this new doll character was also very funny, and I think that character is going to continue, which is kind of like what, a semi-god, a deity or something. Like, I got a bit confused with all the gods and deities and who's spawning who, but yeah, it was enjoyable. And yeah, I think that character is going to be in book number 5, because I've seen the cover of book number 5, and there is that doll head that's there. I also found it real funny on that wizard who was like very horny, and he was building his own whatever. Anyway, and then I wrote 3 other things. Emergency loot boxes. Like, Carl got a couple of emergency loot boxes and was like, who's helping him and why? Then epilogue, right? So I finished the chapters. I was like, all right, the book is now over, and I start to read the book on Goodreads and hardcover, and I see that epilogue is starting. I was like, oh, it's just an epilogue, it's not that important. So I was kind of like half listening, and then I was like, it started to get like really interesting, like who's pulling the strings, because during the epilogue there is like an entire thing all together where you get like feeded of some random information about outside, and maybe not random information, but information about outside the game, outside the crawlers. And I was like, who the hell is pulling the strings and what's going on? Because you hear Odette, who's like pulling some strings, and then you see Beatrice. Like, I somehow missed that. I was a bit confused with Beatrice and what she's doing in the episode, like, and who's helping Beatrice and why? And like, she was broken, she was crying or something. Like, it was a bit. Again, I'm intrigued about what's going on, and I think this was interesting on what happened in this book, on how Carl is going on the offensive a little bit. It's not really about the games that we are playing right now. It's about how Carl and the crawlers are directly or indirectly attacking, and how the world building is happening around the games, with the AI getting crazier faster than anticipated, and with those people pulling the strings, because it's something like Carl is causing damage through the game, but Carl is also making the most money to the corporations and whatnot. So yeah, this is kind of me rambling about Dungeon Crawler Carl, book number 4. I think it's an enjoyable book. Like, I just start to listen, and because of the good narration and the good writing and the world building that's happening, like, there are things that were introduced in book number 2 or something, and it keeps continuing, right? I'm generally intrigued, and they are not thin books. Like I think the first book was like what, 300 pages, and then we went into 400 pages, and then we went into 500 pages, and then we are now going into 600 pages per book. It's going to be like a long series, and there are things that are happening. The action, there's a lot of actions. I mean, first book is 420 something pages. I'm just looking at this 427 pages. So those are not fun books. Let's put it like that. This is not something, because you would think that lit RPG, that's how people are calling this genre or something, because it has video game elements, or RPG like it was a game or something. It is fun. You're having fun. You're laughing at the absurd situations. But there are things building in the back. It's more about survival. One parallel that I drew in the first video was that this is kind of like Terry Pratchett meets, and you can see Terry Pratchett here. I'm preparing to make a video after this one. It's kind of like Terry Pratchett because of the witness, something. It's very witty. Let's put it like that. Even that Terry Pratchett, you can ignore his social stuff. It's still there, you can see it. Here again, you're having fun with all the things that happen, but you can feel that there is some, just remembered, Carl has a lot of looking back at his father in the past books, his relationship with his father. This is something that we've all had to deal with in real life. Our relationship with the girlfriend, with the relationship with the family, mother, father, and so on. Those are things that are there, and you can look through that lens, and you can empathize with Carl and what he's going through, right? So it's not just a fun book and so on. There is depth there. So yeah, this is kind of like why I enjoy this book. So anyway, this is me rambling about Dungeon Crawler Car book number 4. Thank you for watching, and see you soon, I guess, hopefully. Bye.